There's a building on Pico Boulevard in Los Angeles you have almost certainly driven past without a second glance. Beige walls, no windows, no sign on the door. It looks like the kind of place where insurance forms get filed. Inside are 52 working oil wells. Right now, as you read this, crude is being pulled out of the ground beneath one of the most expensive stretches of real estate in America, and the people idling at the light out front have no idea. And that isn't even the strange part, because it isn't the only one. There's a drilling site tucked behind the Beverly Center. Beverly Hills High School had a well of its own, pumping crude from under the athletic field until 2017. Across Los Angeles, the oil industry is hiding in plain sight. Inside office blocks, behind shopping malls, under schools. Most of the city has no idea any of it is there, because beneath Los Angeles sits one of the richest oil basins on Earth. Billions of barrels under malls and high schools and office towers and 8-figure homes. So how did one of the great oil cities in American history become a place where almost nobody remembers the oil is still down there? And how much could this buried field still matter to Los Angeles and to America's tangled energy math? Start with what's already come out of the ground. The Los Angeles Basin has produced more than 9 billion barrels of oil. That is not a modest field. That is one of the largest urban oil basins anywhere on the planet, and it happens to sit under one of the biggest cities in the country. Right now, there are more than 20,000 wells scattered across Los Angeles County. Active, idle, and abandoned. Roughly 1 in every 3 people in LA lives within a mile of an active one. In a city the world associates with Hollywood, beaches, and real estate, millions of people are living on top of a working oil field and don't know it. The biggest of them all lies beneath Long Beach. It's called the Wilmington Field. This single field once held around 3 billion barrels of oil. Even today, after a century of production, it is still pumping roughly 46,000 barrels every single day, more than some entire countries produce. And most people in Los Angeles barely think about it, which is strange, because oil didn't just shape this city. In a very real sense, oil built it. At the beginning, the oil hid from no one. In 1769, when the Spanish explorer Gaspar de Portola led his expedition through what would one day become Los Angeles, his scouts came across pools of thick, black liquid seeping straight out of the ground near what is now Wilshire Boulevard. The Chumash had been using it for thousands of years, waterproofing their canoes, sealing baskets, gluing tools together. The Spanish called the place Rancho La Brea, the tar ranch. The oil was so abundant, it was simply part of the landscape. Then, in 1892, a broke prospector named Edward Doheny changed everything. Doheny was living in a downtown boarding house when he noticed a passing cart with its wheels caked in black mud. He followed the trail to the source, dug a hole in a vacant lot near what is now Dodger Stadium, using a pick and a sharpened telephone pole, and struck oil at 160 feet. That one hole set off a drilling frenzy that has never fully stopped. Within 5 years, 550 wells were running inside the city. By 1897, they were pulling out more than 1 million barrels a year. And then the real madness started. In 1921, oil was found in Long Beach. The ground was so extraordinarily rich that land was leased by the square inch. In 1923 alone, that field produced 68 million barrels in a single year. By the mid-1920s, the Los Angeles Basin was supplying 1/5 of the entire nation's oil. 1/5 of America's oil from a single basin beneath a single city. The Los Angeles Times captured the mood in 1900 with a mix of wonder and dread. A new industry, millions of dollars for its citizens, and ugly steel derricks going up almost in people's front yards, whether they wanted them or not. Go to the La Brea tar pits today, and you'll find what looks like a museum. It is something stranger than that. It's a geological event still happening in real time. Oil is seeping to the surface there right now, exactly as it has for more than 40,000 years. As it reaches the air, the lighter components evaporate away, leaving the thick black asphalt that once trapped mammoths and saber-toothed cats during the Ice Age. The tar pits are not a curiosity, they are a leak. The same oil field that built Los Angeles is still trying to reach the surface right now in the middle of the city. The reason all of it is there comes down to geology. Between about 23 and 5 million years ago, the tectonic system in Southern California reorganized from plates diving under the continent to plates grinding sideways past one another. The same fault system that gives California its earthquakes today. That shift stretched the crust and dropped a deep structural basin, which filled with up to 6 miles of marine sediment. Organic matter piled in, got buried, got cooked under heat and pressure across millions of years, and became oil. And the faults that run through the basin now act as natural pipelines, channeling that oil upward through the rock. In a few places, all the way to the surface. La Brea is simply where the pressure wins. Before Hollywood made Los Angeles rich, oil did. That is not a figure of speech. Edward Doheny, the man who dug that first well with a telephone pole, became one of the wealthiest men in American history. His fortune built Greystone Mansion in Beverly Hills. 55 rooms, 18 acres, finished in 1928, and still standing. J. Paul Getty, whose name is on the museum overlooking the city, made his first fortune in these oil fields before the movie industry even existed. And the Beverly Hillbillies, the show about a man who strikes oil and moves to Beverly Hills, wasn't a fantasy pulled out of thin air. It was a cultural memory. The premise landed instantly with audiences in the 1960s because it had actually happened to actual families in the decades before. By the mid-1920s, Los Angeles was one of the largest oil exporting regions in the world. Fortunes were made overnight. Whole neighborhoods were built on oil money. The city's roads, its water systems, its early economy, all of it funded by what came up out of the ground. Then, by the 1960s, the oil companies had a problem. The city was booming. Land was becoming worth more than the oil beneath it, and nobody wanted a derrick next to their swimming pool. So they did something genuinely remarkable. They made the wells disappear. That building on Pico Boulevard near Genesee went up in 1968. From the street, it's an office block. Inside, a derrick on wheels rolls along a track from wellhead to wellhead, drawing crude from wells that slant diagonally underground, out beneath some of the priciest real estate in the country. The drivers passing on Pico have no idea what's inside. That is exactly the point. At Beverly Hills High School, a drilling tower stood for decades wrapped in walls painted with quilted flowers, a deliberate choice to make the whole operation invisible to students and neighbors. The well earned the school's serious royalty income. It also became the subject of an Aaron Brockovich lawsuit after nearby residents reported nosebleeds, headaches, and strange chemical smells. In Long Beach Harbor, 4 artificial islands were built in the 1960s, dressed up by a Hollywood set designer with palm trees, waterfalls, and colorful towers. From shore, they look like a resort. They are oil platforms. They're called the Thumbs Islands, named for the companies that built them: Texaco, Humble, Union, Mobil, and Shell. And they are still pumping today. Even the old back lot of 20th Century Fox in Century City had its own drilling island until 1990, on land that is now some of the most valuable commercial real estate in California. Fake buildings, fake islands, fake gardens, fake walls, built across one of the most photographed cities on Earth. And it worked. The oil kept flowing, and almost nobody noticed. Here's where it gets genuinely strange. Today, California imports around 70% of its crude oil from abroad. Tankers cross the Pacific and thread through the Panama Canal to feed refineries in a state sitting on top of one of the richest oil basins in the world. The Wilmington field alone has an estimated 900 million barrels of future recoverable oil, according to the USGS. Enough to supply California's refineries for years. But in 2022, California passed a law requiring a 3,200-foot buffer between oil wells and homes, schools, and hospitals. In a city as dense as Los Angeles, that math effectively ends new urban drilling entirely. The geology didn't change. Wilmington is still producing 46,000 barrels a day from wells that already exist, but no new wells are being permitted anywhere near it. So the state that launched the modern environmental movement, that leads the country in electric vehicles, that is committed to phasing out gas cars by 2035 is also the state that built one of its great cities directly on top of a buried oil fortune, disguised the wells behind fake buildings and flower walls, and is now slowly walking away from it, while buying the identical product from the far side of the planet. That contradiction isn't a political argument, it's just what the numbers show. The oil at La Brea is still seeping. It hasn't stopped in 40,000 years, and it isn't stopping now. The 20,000 wells beneath Los Angeles County are still there, most idle, some active, all of them sunk into the same basin that Doheny tapped with a telephone pole in 1892. The oil doesn't care about buffer zones or EV mandates or the price of a barrel this quarter. It's just there, waiting, the way it has waited for millions of years. And if the economics ever shift, if prices climb, if technology gets cheaper, if the calculus changes even slightly, then the oil field that built Los Angeles once already might do something nobody in this city is currently expecting. It might change everything again. If you find this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.